Okay, so we've gone through epithelial, connective tissue. Now we're going to do muscle. We've got three different types, so we've talked about these in lab already, and we're just going to go through these again and add a couple other little details. So skeletal. So if we look at skeletal, zoomed in view of it, like way into a muscle fiber. Let me pull up a picture. Let me pull up this thing. Let me put this over here. Okay, so these are our basic muscle fibers here. This is a skeletal, this is smooth, and this is cardiac. And if we zoom way in on a skeletal muscle fiber, we see these striations. And these striations are made up of these tiny little contractile units called the sarcomere. So there's this dark, light, dark, light, dark, light repeating pattern that happens. And we'll go into the details of what the heck that is, but it's a bunch of actin and myosin that contracts. The little myosin motors walk on it. Okay, so let's walk through what these are. And I'll just redraw these right below it. So here we have skeletal, or skeletal if you're from South Africa, skeletal muscle. And we've drawn these already in lab, but very simply, what you have is one big, long cell. So if I draw something like that, what just happened? Something like that, and something like that. That is all one single cell. Okay? And this will run like the entire length of your bicep, for example. Or, your tricep back here, or your delt. And these cells are, since they're so big, it's one single cell that's really big and long, they need to have multiple nuclei to allow for genetic expression of the genes to happen all throughout it, right? Because they got to make RNA from the DNA, and you don't want to be able to make that in multiple places because you got to rebuild this actin, for example, when it breaks down. So they will have multiple nuclei per cell. It's very special. Not a lot of cells are like that. Per cell. It's called multinucleate. Multiple nuclei per cell, and then they will have repeating light and dark stripes, which are called striations. I didn't like the way it looks all caps. Striations. Okay, I'm just going to draw those as, let's draw them as like gray. I'll draw them as like gray lines. Going like this. All along the fiber. Let's see if I can copy and paste just to make this go a little faster for us. Okay. That is a skeletal muscle fiber. It's beautiful. Multiple nuclei, striations, big, long, single cell. This is one cell, this tiny little muscle fiber. And not next week, but the week after, when we talk going in depth on muscles. So that's all we really need for skeletal muscles. Easy peasy. All right. Smooth muscles love jazz music. They are a smooth operator. Just kidding. They are, and these obviously are associated with our skeletons, why they're called skeletal muscles, with conscious control. So these are the muscles we can control with our awareness. So examples would be biceps, triceps, quads, glutes, tongue, for example. Smooth muscle. These guys have a spindle shape. Long, spindly looking things, like so. When we looked at these under the microscope, they didn't look quite this good, but you can see how this, it looks like it might be one big fiber like that, but it's actually made out of a bunch of little individual cells. And they look like a yarn spindle. That's why they're called spindle shaped. It's interesting how they actually contract. You don't have to know this, but they don't have striations. So this is smooth muscle. Smooth muscle. No striations. Single nuclei. No striations. No striations. Single nuclei per cell. They're much shorter too. And the way they contract, it's pretty nifty. Got this cool little picture here. Is their actin fibers are kind of randomly kind of splooged all throughout the cell body. So boom, 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 boom. So they don't form any repeating patterns like this light and dark. All their actin and myosin filaments are like very regimented like this. And this is like a little sarcomere inside of skeletal muscle cells. But in smooth muscle cells, the actin filaments just kind of crisscross it. They don't go in any specific kind of regimented direction. But this is how they contract. And these guys are associated with like involuntary control. So anything that's involuntary. Oh, your diaphragm would be a skeletal muscle. Anyway, involuntary control. So things like the muscles lining your digestive system and vascular system. So the food just doesn't magically fall through you. It's pushed through the power of smooth muscles. And that process is called peristalsis. They basically contract and relax, and then contract and relax to push food through. This is also what dilates your capillaries or your arteries in your veins, makes them bigger or smaller. It's the relaxation or contraction of smooth muscle. And then last but not least, we got our cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle. All right, and this is pretty cool. It's kind of a mixture of these two. So these make up the heart, and they're shorter, like smooth muscle cells, but they can branch like so. So that's one special little ability of them, is that they can have these branched-like structures, or branched-like anatomy, like so. Boo-boo. And they will also only have a single nucleus, like so. However, different from smooth muscle cells is that they will have striations. So you can see these striations in them, actually. You see those? Pretty nifty, whereas you don't see those in smooth muscle, but you do see them in skeletal muscle. So these striations are present. Ha-ha, wee. Like so. And let's see, this, you can't really see the branches too well. Actually, maybe right there versus there. Pretty good there and there. But they are branched, just so you know. But you can see in that diagram up there something really good that is important. So these are striations. Striations. Single nuclei per cell. Branched. Cells can branch. And they have very strong junctions between each other. These are called intercalated or intercalated discs. Intercalated discs. Intercalated discs. And just like a fun little kind of amazing fact, I'm going to talk about this many times throughout, is that you take two heart cells in a dish, like a petri dish. We'll start to contract when they meet each other. Heart cells, the cardiac cells, do not need a brain to start contracting. Your heart does not need a brain to contract. If you can take somebody's heart, remove it from their body, it'll still beat. And if you put it in a little, just a little box, so it has like some fake oxygenated blood, that thing will just beat forever as long as you keep feeding it. Pretty nifty. Yeah, and these intercalated discs are little. I got a couple little pictures here I want to show you, and then that's it for this lecture. Nice and easy. So we got these. You can look at that while I get the second one going up in here. Oops. Well. Okay. So we've got these branch-like structures. It looks like bacon. Straight up, this looks like bacon, bro. But you can see these muscle or actin and myosin fibers throughout. These would be striated. We got our nucleus. We got this branch-like structure. And if we zoom in here, where these wavy, they're kind of like wavy to help increase the surface area where they connect. These would be the actin and myosin filaments. That's a mitochondria. This would be the gap between the two cells. And they connect to each other through these junctions called desmosomes and these intercalated discs here. So these are just really, really, really strong cell-cell junctions. We can see an actual kind of example of this desmosome junction where we have a lot of keratin filaments coming in and out of it. Very nifty, specialized little junction there to connect these cells together very firmly. I mean, think about it. These cells are beating your heart, which pumps your blood, which feeds your cells oxygen, and also everything else, removes waste products. If these things all just ripped apart, you wouldn't live. So these have to be, and they're beating constantly. Even when you're sleeping, your heart is going. So they need to be very, very strongly connected to one another. All right, I think that's all I got for muscle cells. Pretty dope. I'll see you guys in the nervous system one. It's going to be real short.